The vast crystal chamber of the Galactic Council went silent as 500 representatives from across the known stars abruptly stopped speaking. At the central platform stood Ambassador Thrax of the Vorthan Empire, his 4 arms extended as light reflected off his obsidian scales. He spoke clearly and without hesitation. "We claim the planet called Earth, the primitive world in the outer rim. Our fleets are already moving." A ripple of uneasy whispers moved through the younger council members. The Novi delegation exchanged confused looks. The crystalline beings of Zenthara shimmered with curiosity. The older races remained still, their eyes fixed on the Vorthan ambassador. Ambassador Kale of the Altarian Republic rose slowly, his blue skin noticeably pale. "You cannot do this," he said in a controlled but firm tone. Thrax responded with a sharp, cold laugh. "Why? Because you want that backwater world for yourselves? The humans barely possess space flight. They launch chemical rockets like children playing with toys." "You do not understand," Kale replied, glancing toward the elder species seated around the chamber. The Verthari delegate shut all 6 of his eyes. The ancient Mephidus ambassador shook her head in silence. "What is there to understand?" Thrax demanded. "We have conquered 53 worlds. Our fleet has never suffered defeat. These humans have not even left their own system. They still fight with metal weapons and burn fossil fuels." A young Novi ambassador cautiously raised her hand. "If Earth is so weak, why do we have laws preventing contact with them? I have heard there are restrictions." The chamber grew quieter still. Several of the oldest beings shifted uncomfortably while others lowered their gaze. High Chancellor Orinth, the eldest member of the council, slowly stood. His species was so ancient that their true name had been forgotten. They were known only as the First Ones. His voice carried softly across the chamber. "There are protocols. Ancient protocols." Thrax spread his arms again. "What protocols? Show me these laws." Orinth touched his console, and a holographic projection appeared in the center of the room, displaying legal documents marked with red warning symbols written in an old script few could decipher. "Earth is under Quarantine Protocol 7, Orinth said. "No contact. No interference. No approach within 50 light-years." The younger delegates leaned forward. The Novi ambassador spoke again. "Why? What makes these humans so dangerous? Our reports indicate they still use nuclear weapons and wage wars among themselves." "That is exactly why," the Verthari delegate murmured as his 6 eyes opened one by one. Thrax struck his platform with a clenched fist. "Enough of these games. You are afraid because you want Earth for yourselves. The humans are insignificant. They have no energy weapons, no shields, no faster-than-light communication. They are barely out of their Stone Age." "You are making a serious mistake," Kale warned as he stood again, his hands trembling. "A terrible mistake." "The only mistake is waiting this long," Thrax answered. "Our ships will reach Earth in 10 days. The humans will surrender, or they will be destroyed. We will mine their planet for resources and use their people as labor." From the rear of the chamber came a sound like quiet sobbing. It was Ambassador Naira of the Silurans, a species that had traveled the stars for 3,000 years. "I was there," she said softly. "I witnessed the Terran incident." The chamber fell completely silent. Even the hum of the air systems seemed to fade. "What incident?" a young delegate asked. The elder races did not respond. Orinth activated his controls again, and red symbols covered the hologram. "All records of the Terran incident are classified at level black. Only species over 1,000 years old may access them." Thrax laughed again. "You expect me to fear your stories and legends? The Vorthan Empire fears nothing." "Then you are fools," Naira said as tears ran down her face. "We tried to warn the Korvax slavers 300 years ago. They ignored us as well." "What happened to the Korvax?" the Novi ambassador asked. Silence followed. "Where are they now?" "Gone," Orinth answered. "Their empire, their worlds, their people, all gone." Thrax's scales shifted with anger. "You believe these primitive humans destroyed an entire empire? Impossible. They do not even have proper spaceships." "Believe what you wish," Kale said as he sank back into his seat. "We have done what we can to warn you." "Your warnings mean nothing," Thrax declared. "In 10 days, Earth will belong to the Vorthan Empire. We will demonstrate how real warriors fight." He turned and strode out of the chamber. The massive doors shut behind him with a deep echo. For several moments, no one spoke. Then quiet discussions broke out among the younger species, but the elders refused to answer their questions. High Chancellor Orinth activated the emergency network, and his message was transmitted to every major world. "Attention, all Council species. Emergency evacuation protocols are now in effect. All civilian vessels must withdraw from sectors near Earth. Military fleets should prepare for possible refugee assistance." The younger delegates looked stunned. "Refugees from where?" the Novi ambassador asked. "From everywhere within 100 light-years of Earth," Orinth replied. "Why?" she asked. Without answering, the old chancellor began walking toward the exit. As Ambassador Naira passed the younger delegates, one reached out and grasped her arm. "Please tell us what happened. What was the Terran incident?" Naira paused and looked into the young face filled with fear and curiosity. "One human ship," she whispered. "One damaged human ship with 37 crew members fought off a Korvax raider fleet of 200 vessels. When we arrived, we found their ship drifting in space, heavily damaged, beyond repair, yet still operational." "How could that be possible?" the young delegate asked. "The humans had converted their vessel into a weapon. They used everything available to them. Metal pipes, chemical explosives, even their own bodies as projectiles. They never stopped fighting. They never surrendered. Even as their ship broke apart, they continued attacking." The young delegates stared in disbelief. "That was one ship far from their home," Naira continued. "Now the Vorthans are attacking their home world. Their families. Their children." She gently freed her arm and walked away. "May whatever gods exist show mercy to the Vorthans," she said quietly, "because the humans will not." The chamber emptied quickly, and emergency lights began flashing across the council complex as evacuation orders spread throughout the galaxy. Admiral Vex of the Vorthan Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Shadow Strike. Through the broad viewing port, he observed the yellow star humans called Sol. Around him, 400 Vorthan warships maintained flawless formation, the largest fleet ever assembled by the Empire. "Report," he ordered. Captain Zara studied her instruments. "We are at the edge of the human system, sir. Sensors confirm 9 planets. The 3rd planet is their home world." "Any defenses?" "None detected, sir. No orbital stations, no defense platforms, no military vessels in space." Vex folded his forearms across his chest. "Scan the planet itself." "Scanning, sir. The planet shows primitive technology. Radio transmissions. Basic energy production. Several artificial satellites that appear to serve communication purposes only. Population estimate approximately 8 billion, sir. Distributed across 7 major land masses." Vex laughed. 8 billion primitives without space defenses. This will be the simplest conquest in Imperial history. His communications officer interrupted. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human world." "Put it through." A voice emerged over the speakers, speaking broken Galactic Common as the translator struggled. "Unknown ships. This is Earth Defense Command. We request peaceful contact. Please state your intentions." Vex's scales shifted with amusement. "Earth Defense Command. They refer to radio operators as a defense command." Laughter filled the bridge. "Open a channel," Vex commanded. "This is Admiral Vex of the Vorthan Empire. We claim this system and all its worlds. You will surrender immediately." After a pause, the human voice returned slowly. "We need time to consult our leaders." "You have 1 hour," Vex replied. "After that, we will begin destroying your cities." He ended the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the bombardment cannons. Target their largest population centers." Meanwhile, in the council chambers, emergency sessions continued without pause. Massive crystal screens displayed the Vorthan fleet position, and council members watched with deep concern. They have not advanced beyond the system edge, the Novi observer reported. They appear to be waiting. Of course they are waiting, Ambassador Naira said hollowly. The humans asked for time. Time for what? A young Centurion delegate asked. To prepare, Kale answered quietly. High Chancellor Orinth reactivated the emergency system. All council fleets must retreat to the secondary defense line. Minimum safe distance is now 200 light-years from Earth. The younger delegates reacted with shock. That distance will take days to travel. Why so far? Orinth did not respond. He continued watching the screens. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Vex grew impatient. How much time do these primitives require? Their technology is barely beyond metal tools. His intelligence officer reported that human communications showed they had contacted every government on their planet. All of them. How many governments can one primitive world possess? Over 200, sir. Mostly small regional authorities. But they are unified in one message. They are telling their people to prepare for war. Vex laughed loudly. War? What could they possibly do against our fleet? Captain Zara hesitated. Sir, should we not consider caution? Even the Council appears fearful of these humans. The Council has grown weak from peace, Vex said dismissively. We will demonstrate how warriors handle primitives. His communications officer spoke again. Sir, the 1-hour limit has expired. The humans are responding. Put it through. This time, a different voice spoke clearly in perfect galactic common. This is Earth. We have discussed your demands. And Vex demanded. Our answer is no. Vex's eyes narrowed. Then your people will die. If you want our world, the human voice replied calmly, come and take it. The transmission ended. Silence settled over the bridge. Then Vex roared in anger. Prepare a demonstration strike. Target that uninhabited island in their western ocean. We will show them the cost of defiance. Target locked, sir. Fire. 3 heavy plasma bolts launched from the shadow strike toward Earth, illuminating space as they sped toward the blue planet. Across the galaxy, council members watched in alarm. It has begun, Ambassador Naira whispered. The plasma bolts entered Earth's atmosphere, heading toward their target. Moments before impact, the island erupted with defensive fire. Powerful beams of energy shot upward, not primitive lasers, but advanced particle weapons restricted by council treaties. 2 plasma bolts were destroyed before impact. The third struck the island but collided with an energy shield instead of causing destruction. Impossible, Vex said under his breath. Sir, the weapons officer reported, the island was not uninhabited. It is a concealed military installation. Our sensors detected nothing earlier. They were using stealth technology. Vex studied the tactical display as the island became fully visible, revealing weapon platforms and shield generators far beyond what humans were believed to possess. How many more sites like this exist? He asked. Unknown, sir. If one can remain hidden, others can as well. Suddenly, alarms sounded again. Multiple contacts appearing throughout the system. Ships, sir. Human ships. Hundreds of them. They were materializing across the tactical display, red markers flashing into existence around asteroids, behind moons, and in regions previously empty on sensors. Stealth fields, Zara said quietly. They were here the entire time. Vex watched as the human vessels organized into attack formation. They were not primitive chemical rockets as intelligence had reported. These were advanced warships equipped with sophisticated engines and weapon systems. How is this possible? He demanded. His intelligence officer searched frantically through her data. Sir, our information regarding human technology was incorrect. Incorrect in what way? They do not merely possess spaceflight, sir. They have had it for decades. These ships, some of them appear older than the Empire's own designs. Admiral Vex stared at the tactical display as the situation shifted from simple conquest to something far more dangerous. His communications officer spoke softly. Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the humans. Put it through. The same calm human voice returned. Admiral Vex, You attacked our world. You threatened our people. You have made your choice. What do you want? Vex demanded. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Vex's anger surged again. We outnumber you 4-1. Numbers are not everything, the human replied. Last chance, Admiral. Vex cut the signal and addressed his fleet commanders. All ships, move to attack formation. Prepare for full engagement. We will demonstrate the strength of the Vorthan Empire. In the council chamber, observers watched both forces advance toward each other. High Chancellor Orinth spoke quietly. May the universe forgive us for what we are about to witness. The first human vessel to respond was smaller than expected and moved in an unpredictable way, twisting and shifting instead of following straight military vectors. Single human vessel approaching, Captain Zara reported. It appears to be a patrol ship. Destroy it, Vex ordered. Let this serve as an example. 3 Vorthan destroyers turned and charged their plasma cannons. Before they could fire, the human ship separated into 5 smaller craft that had been flying in tight formation. The vessels scattered in different directions at speeds far beyond what ships of that size should achieve. Impossible, Vex said. Those are fighters, not a single craft, sir. Fighters that small should not have faster-than-light capability, his engineering officer noted. Before anyone could respond, the human fighters attacked. Instead of energy beams, they launched solid metal projectiles accelerated to extreme velocity. The rounds passed through Vorthan shields without resistance. One destroyer's hull fractured. Another lost engine power. The third spun uncontrollably after its bridge was destroyed. How are they breaching our shields? Vex demanded. The projectiles are too small for shield detection, his tactical officer replied. Our defenses are configured for energy weapons and large missiles. Adjust the shield frequency. We are attempting to, sir, but their attack patterns keep shifting. Additional human ships entered the battle from multiple directions, not in organized formations, but in scattered waves. Some descended from above the system plane, others rose from below. Several emerged from within the asteroid belt, using the rocks as cover. This is complete disorder, Zara said. They have no formation. Perhaps that is intentional, Vex replied. His communications officer looked up. Sir, we are receiving multiple transmissions from the human ships. Put them through. Instead of standard military signals, loud aggressive music filled the bridge. The translator struggled with the words mixed with voices shouting statements such as, "For Earth," and "Come get some." Turn that off, Vex ordered. In the council chamber, long-range sensors relayed the unfolding conflict. The humans are not operating like any military we recognize, the Novi Observer reported. They are using individual ship tactics instead of fleet formations. Ambassador Naira nodded grimly. They are not functioning as a conventional military force. What do you mean? Asked a young delegate. Examine their ship signatures. Not all are military craft. Some are cargo vessels. Others are privately owned ships, even civilian vehicles. High Chancellor Orinth leaned forward. They have armed their civilians. Every human capable of piloting a ship has joined the fight. Kale added, this is an entire species defending its home. On the battlefield, Admiral Vex began to understand the difference in human warfare. A line of human cargo ships positioned themselves between his fleet and Earth, launching small objects into space. What are those? He asked. His science officer scanned them. They are mines, sir, but not energy-based. They contain metal fragments and chemical explosives. Primitive devices. Yes, sir. But there are thousands. The mines spread into a vast cloud between the fleets. Some were barely larger than a human fist, while others matched the size of shuttlecraft. All remained undetected until detonation. The first explosion struck a Vorthan cruiser unexpectedly. Though the blast itself was limited, the fragments tore through the hull, causing rapid decompression. Shields cannot intercept fragments of that scale, Zara reported. They are too small and too fast. Additional detonations followed as human forces transformed open space into a lethal field. Every Vorthan maneuver risked triggering another explosion. As the fleet slowed to avoid the mines, human fighters attacked from every direction. Their movements defied prediction. Each pilot appeared to choose tactics independently. One fighter charged directly at a destroyer, fired at close range, then veered away under forces that should have killed its pilot. Yet it survived and continued fighting. Another deliberately collided with a Vorthan weapons platform, destroying both ships. The pilot ejected moments before impact and was rescued by another human vessel. "They are irrational," Zara whispered. "No," Vex replied. "They are determined. And that makes them dangerous." His tactical officer spoke urgently. "Sir, we are losing ships rapidly. The humans are not attempting capture. They intend total destruction. Casualty report. 47 ships lost, sir. And increasing." Vex studied the display filled with red markers marking destroyed vessels. "Sir, priority message from Earth," the communications officer said. "Put it through." A new voice answered, older and more formal. "This is Earth Defense Command. Admiral Vex, we are offering you a final opportunity to withdraw your forces." "Withdraw?" Vex responded with forced laughter. "We still outnumber you 3-1. "Numbers are irrelevant when you misunderstand your opponent," the voice replied. "You have encountered only a fraction of our strength." "Explain." "The ships engaging you are volunteers. Civilians defending their planet. Our formal military has not yet entered the battle." Vex felt unease for the first time. "That is impossible." "Check your long-range sensors toward the outer planets," the voice instructed. Vex ordered a scan. His science officer's expression changed. "Sir, massive energy signatures approaching from the gas giant regions. Scale uncertain. Larger than any vessels currently engaged." On the display, new contacts appeared. These were not small fighters or converted civilian ships, but purpose-built warships numbering in the hundreds. "This cannot be correct," Vex said. "Our intelligence claimed humans barely achieved spaceflight." "Your intelligence was mistaken in many areas," the human voice answered. "We have observed the galaxy longer than you realize. We have studied what happens to worlds targeted by aggressive empires." "So you concealed yourselves," Vex said. "We prepared," the voice replied. Additional human vessels emerged from hidden positions, behind asteroids, within planetary rings, from the surfaces of moons. "How long have you planned this?" Vex asked. "Since the moment we discovered we were not alone in the universe. We understood that one day someone would attempt to take our world. We chose to be ready." Captain Zara looked at the encirclement forming around them. "Sir, we are surrounded." "All ships, assume defensive posture," Vex ordered, though he recognized the futility. Human vessels closed in from all sides, not in rigid lines, but in coordinated unpredictability. Earth remained at the center, protected by its people. For the first time in his command, Admiral Vex questioned his decision. He then ordered full assault. All 400 Vorthan warships fired simultaneously. Plasma bolts flooded space, illuminating the region as they surged toward the human fleet. The humans did not respond with standard defensive formations. Instead, they dispersed in unpredictable patterns that seemed chaotic. "They lack discipline," Zara said. "No coordination." She was mistaken. A damaged human freighter with failing engines suddenly accelerated toward the Vorthan battleship Terror's edge. "Collision alert," the tactical officer warned. "Destroy that ship," Vex commanded. The freighter struck the battleship and detonated with far greater force than its remaining fuel could produce. The explosion forced the bridge crew to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Terror's edge no longer existed. "How is that possible?" Zara asked. "The freighter carried antimatter," the science officer replied. "Enough to destroy a small moon. They converted their own ship into a bomb." Vex struggled to comprehend the willingness for such sacrifice. Another human vessel, a passenger transport, rammed a destroyer. Then another. Then another followed similar tactics. Each detonation eliminated ships considered nearly indestructible. "Sir," the communications officer reported with trembling voice, "we are receiving transmissions from destroyed ships." "What type?" "Music, sir." Humans are playing music during their final moments. The bridge crew listened as human voices sang songs about death and honor while their ships were destroyed. These were not sounds of surrender, but of resolve. They are taking satisfaction in this, Zara said in disbelief. In the council chamber, elder beings watched in dread. It is repeating, Ambassador Naira said. Just as before. Explain, a young delegate urged. Humans do not fight simply to win, Kale stated. They fight to ensure their enemy loses. That distinction changes everything. On the screens, human fighters entered Vorthan formations deliberately to detonate, opening gaps for heavier ships to strike from behind. This goes beyond warfare, High Chancellor Orinth said. Back in the battle, Admiral Vex realized the truth of those words. The humans deployed prohibited technologies long banned by the Galactic Council. Sir, our systems are under viral attack, the weapons officer reported. It is spreading through fleet networks. Contain it. We are attempting containment, but it adapts continuously. Each time we block one variation, another appears. On the main display, a Vorthan cruiser turned its weapons on Allied ships after losing control to the virus. How do they know our codes? Vex demanded. Unknown, sir. But their familiarity suggests long-term study. What the Vorthans did not realize was that humans had examined every fragment of Vorthan technology ever lost, every abandoned vessel, every damaged system recovered over decades. They had studied it all in detail. But an even greater shock was coming. Sir, the science officer shouted in alarm. We have boarding pods approaching. That is impossible, Vex replied. Our shields are still active. The pods are not using energy to pass through the shields, sir. They are using mechanical drills. On the tactical display, small human craft latched onto Vorthan hulls and began cutting through the metal with rotating drills rather than advanced energy systems. Dispatch security teams to repel the boarders, Vex ordered. When the teams reached the breach sites, they encountered a sight that would haunt them. The humans entering through the openings wore basic protective suits and carried weapons that seemed outdated by galactic standards: metal blades, chemical firearms, simple explosives. Yet they fought with relentless intensity. Security Team 7 is not responding, the tactical officer reported. Send reinforcements. Security Teams 8 through 12 have also gone silent. What is happening? Vex demanded. The humans are not attempting to seize control of the ships, sir. They are sabotaging them internally, cutting power conduits, disabling life support, detonating explosives in critical compartments. One after another, ships in the fleet went dark, not destroyed by external fire, but crippled from within. How are they surviving? Vex asked. Our atmospheric composition is toxic to most species. They brought independent air supplies, sir, and they show no concern for extraction. The truth the Galactic Council had concealed was now clear. Humans approached war differently than other civilizations. Most advanced species treated military conflict as a calculated effort to achieve limited political goals while minimizing casualties. But for humans, war meant survival, and they would sacrifice anything to defend their world. Captain Zara spoke quietly. Sir, more than half our fleet is lost. Vex studied the tactical display crowded with red markers. The humans employ tactics beyond our experience, she continued. They strike from angles that defy prediction. They sacrifice vessels without hesitation. And they continue fighting under conditions that should be fatal. A new alarm echoed across the bridge. Hull breach on Deck 7, the tactical officer announced. That is impossible, Vex said. There are no enemy ships near us. The explosion originated inside engineering, sir. Vex felt a wave of dread. Boarders have reached the flagship. For the next hour, the crew of the Shadow Strike endured internal detonations, failing systems, and emergency lighting as human voices echoed through corridors singing war songs during combat. How did they board us? Vex asked. We believe they concealed themselves within the debris of their own destroyed ships, Zara answered. When we recovered wreckage for analysis, they were hidden inside. Some debris had been drifting for hours, sir. They should have perished. But they did not. The bridge lights flickered and failed before emergency power bathed the room in red illumination. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from inside the ship," the communications officer reported. "Put it through." A steady human voice responded. "Admiral Vex, this is Sergeant Martinez of the Earth Defense Corps. Your vessel is under our control." "That cannot be true." "Check your tactical display, Admiral." Vex observed every major system reporting critical failure: engineering, weapons, navigation, life support. "Your decision is straightforward," the human continued. "Order your remaining ships to withdraw or join those already destroyed." Through the damaged viewport, Vex saw fewer than 50 ships remaining from the original 400. They were retreating. "This cannot be happening," he murmured. "You underestimated determination," the human voice said. "You believed technology and numbers guaranteed victory. You were wrong." "What are you?" Vex asked. "We are humans. And this is our home. No one takes our home." For the first time in his career as conqueror of 53 worlds, Admiral Vex issued the command he had never imagined. "All ships, retreat. Withdraw from the system immediately." As the battered fleet pulled away from Earth, human laughter echoed through the commandeered flagship. Admiral Vex sat amid the wreckage of the bridge as survivors attempted minimal repairs for the return journey to Vorthan space. Through a cracked viewing port, Earth diminished in the distance, serene and quiet despite the devastation it had inflicted. Captain Zara, heavily bandaged yet standing, addressed him. "The human boarders have departed." "Departed?" Vex asked. "They exited through the airlocks into open space." "That is impossible. They would perish instantly." "They wore simple pressure suits and claimed shuttles were waiting." Vex struggled to comprehend their actions. "Sir, a message from the Galactic Council," the communications officer said. High Chancellor Orinth appeared on the damaged display, his expression marked by sorrow and sternness. "Admiral Vex, your fleet is ordered to report to Council Station Prime for immediate debriefing." "Chancellor, we acted in defense of Imperial interests." "They behaved exactly as we warned you they would," Orinth interrupted. Other council members stood behind him, their faces reflecting fear and regret. "Why did the Council conceal the truth about humanity?" Vex demanded. "The truth is difficult," Orinth replied. "Humanity embodies aspects of ourselves the galaxy chose to forget." The transmission shifted to a vast archival chamber filled with ancient holographic records thousands of years old. Ambassador Naira stepped forward. "This is the Galactic Historical Archive. You will now see the real reason for Quarantine Protocol 7. A star map from 300 years ago appeared, marked with colored indicators: red for aggressive empires, blue for peaceful traders, green for scientific societies. "Before the Terran incident," Naira explained, "this region near Earth was filled with red markers representing the Korvax Empire. Slavers who controlled over 40 star systems and millions of beings. They were considered the most formidable military power in that sector." "What became of them?" Vex asked, though he sensed the answer. "They encountered Earth." The display showed a primitive human craft, capable of limited faster-than-light travel. "This was the UES Endeavor," Naira said. "It carried 37 crew members on humanity's first contact mission. The Korvax attacked immediately, disabling the ship to enslave its crew as they had done countless times before. Images showed the Endeavor crippled and drifting. The humans refused to surrender. Instead, they dismantled their own vessel and converted every component into weaponry. Life support systems became explosive devices. Navigation systems were repurposed to guide improvised missiles. When nothing remained, they used their own bodies as weapons. 37 beings confronted a fleet of 200 ships, Vex said in disbelief. "When we arrived, responding to distress signals," Naira explained, "we found all 200 Korvax ships destroyed or disabled by that single damaged vessel." "One ship could not eliminate an empire," Vex said. "You are correct," Orinth answered. The surviving Korvax returned home and reported what they had faced. They described a species that fought with primitive tools yet would not die, and laughed while destroying superior forces. The Korvax resolved to eradicate Earth and dispatched their entire military. He paused. "They never returned. More than 3,000 ships vanished. Their wreckage was later discovered scattered across 100 light-years, with Earth unharmed at the center. That outcome should not have been possible, Vex said. Yet it happened, Naira replied. Humanity defeated a force 10 times larger than anything they should have survived. We never fully understood how, because we chose not to provoke them further. New images showed Earth in the present era, continents covered with cities, space elevators extending into orbit, and major installations on the Moon built over 300 years. While the galaxy assumed they were weak, they were preparing. Preparing for what? Vex asked. For another attempt to take their world. Everything they did to us was planned, Vex said. Not planned in detail, Orinth corrected, but prepared for. Through 3 centuries of studying every potential threat. They know our ships, weapons, and strategies, perhaps better than we do. They have observed and learned. Captain Zara finally spoke. Why did you not stop us before we attacked? We attempted to warn you, Naira answered. Ambassador Thrax refused to listen. He believed we sought Earth for ourselves. Council law prevented direct interference in member military decisions, Orinth added. But we prepared for consequences. The display showed current fleet positions with every major civilization withdrawn beyond 200 light-years from Earth. This is the new quarantine boundary. No vessel may cross without human consent. If someone does, the consequences will be severe. Vex looked at his remaining 47 ships from the original 400. You attacked their home, and they allowed most of your fleet to survive, Naira said gently. That is mercy by their standards. If they had chosen otherwise, none of your ships would remain. The transmission shifted as a new signal from Earth was received. This is Earth Defense Command. We are addressing the Galactic Council. We do not seek conquest or domination. We ask only to be left in peace. Your statement is acknowledged, Orinth replied. The human voice continued firmly. If our world or our people are threatened again, the response will be immediate and total. This is our only warning. The transmission concluded. Silence filled the damaged bridge as Vex absorbed the weight of what had occurred. Days later, the battered fleet emerged near Council Station Prime. Docking crews stared in shock at the condition of the once formidable vessels. Emergency medical teams rushed aboard. Vex disembarked in silence, flanked by surviving officers. Inside the council chamber, High Chancellor Orinth waited with Ambassador Naira and Kale among others. The room was filled, but no one spoke as Vex entered. You have seen the result of your decision, Orinth said quietly. Yes, Chancellor, Vex replied. And I accept responsibility. Murmurs moved through the chamber. A Novi delegate stood. Are the humans pursuing expansion? No, Naira answered before Vex could speak. Their fleet remains entirely within their own system. They have made no hostile movement toward any neighboring territory. Defensive expansion only, Kale added. Another delegate spoke with concern. Can they be trusted? Vex finally raised his voice. They will not seek conflict unless forced. Of that, I am certain. Several older species exchanged glances. And if another empire ignores the quarantine line, the delegate pressed. Vex did not hesitate. They will be destroyed. The bluntness of his statement silenced the chamber again. The council entered closed deliberation for several hours while the surviving Vorthan fleet underwent inspection. When the doors reopened, Orinth announced the decision. Quarantine Protocol 7 will remain permanent. All member species will recognize the sovereignty of Earth and its surrounding system. Diplomatic contact may occur only with human consent. Military approach within 200 light-years without authorization will be considered an act of aggression against both Earth and the Council. The vote passed with overwhelming support. In the weeks that followed, news of the battle spread through every major civilization. The fall of the Korvax centuries earlier had been legend. The defeat of the Vorthan invasion was witnessed in real time by millions. Empires that had once measured strength by territory and conquest quietly recalculated their priorities. Trade alliances strengthened. Military expansions slowed. The idea of attacking emerging worlds lost its appeal. On Earth, the aftermath looked very different. In orbit, repair crews worked continuously, salvaging debris and recovering damaged vessels. Civilian volunteers who had fought returned to their cities, many carrying injuries, all carrying memories that would never fade. Governments that had once disagreed on nearly everything found themselves united by shared survival. Earth Defense Command broadcast a message to its global population: the threat has withdrawn. Reconstruction begins immediately. There will be no celebration. There will be no retaliation. We remain vigilant. In the months that followed, Earth accelerated its development openly rather than in secrecy. Shipyards previously hidden within asteroid fields were expanded and made visible. Orbital defenses were upgraded but configured for deterrence rather than expansion. A single diplomatic vessel was eventually authorized to approach the quarantine boundary, under heavy monitoring from both sides. It did not carry weapons. It carried envoys. Ambassador Naira volunteered to be part of the first official delegation to request dialogue. Orinth approved the mission after extensive debate. The Council vessel halted exactly at the 200 light-year boundary and transmitted a formal request for peaceful contact. The response did not come immediately. Hours passed. Then a human vessel appeared on long-range sensors. It approached slowly but confidently. When visual contact was established, Naira observed its design carefully, powerful but restrained. A warship built for defense, yet carrying clear diplomatic markings. A communication channel opened. "This is Earth Diplomatic Corps. State your purpose." Naira responded with calm respect. "We come to acknowledge your sovereignty and to establish peaceful relations under terms of mutual non-aggression." There was another pause. Then the human reply came. "We will meet." The location was agreed upon at the exact boundary line. When the two vessels finally stood face to face in open space, the significance was not lost on anyone watching from afar. For the first time in galactic history, the Council approached another species with caution rather than dominance. The docking process was slow and deliberate. Security protocols were followed by both sides without incident. Inside the neutral chamber between ships, Naira and the human delegation met. The lead human representative was calm, composed, and direct. "We prefer cooperation over isolation. But understand this clearly. Our defenses remain active." Naira inclined her head. "We understand. The galaxy has learned that lesson." Over the following year, limited cultural and scientific exchanges began. Data was shared cautiously. Trade routes were mapped with strict boundaries. Earth did not request territory, tribute, or advantage. They asked only for recognition and distance. Years later, when new civilizations achieved early spaceflight, the Council adopted a new approach. Observation continued, but interference ceased entirely. Emerging worlds were granted time to grow without pressure. The lesson of Earth had reshaped galactic policy. In the quiet of his quarters one evening, Admiral Vex reviewed a final report from long-range monitoring of the Sol system. Earth continued to rotate peacefully. Its fleets remained within defensive range. No aggressive movement was detected. He closed the report and allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. The galaxy had once feared humanity as an unknown threat. Now it respected them as a determined neighbor. And beyond the quarantine line, 200 light-years wide, a balance had been established. Not through domination, but through a clear understanding that some worlds were not prizes to be claimed, but homes to be defended. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Captain Zara entered, no longer in uniform. She had retired from active service the previous year, but remained a trusted friend. "You're thinking about Earth again," she said. "I'm thinking about everything we didn't understand." Zara sat across from him. "We weren't alone in that. The Council didn't understand either. The elder races kept their secrets, and the rest of us paid the price." Vex nodded slowly. "The Korvax paid with their existence. We paid with our pride and half our fleet. What will the next species pay? Nothing, if they listen." They sat in silence for a moment. Through the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly, each one a potential home, a potential mistake, a potential lesson. "Do you regret it?" Zara asked. "The invasion?" Vex considered the question carefully. He had been a conqueror for decades. 53 worlds had fallen before his fleet. He had never questioned whether he had the right to take them. Until Earth. "I regret the arrogance," he said finally. "I regret assuming that because we were stronger, we were entitled. I regret every world we took before Earth, because now I understand that somewhere on each of those worlds, there were people just like the humans. People who would have fought just as hard if they had been given the chance." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "That is a heavy realization. It is the truth. And the truth has a weight to it." On Council Station Prime, High Chancellor Orinth stood before the assembled delegates. The chamber was full, 500 representatives, every seat occupied. But the atmosphere was different now. There was no laughter, no casual dismissals. The elders no longer kept their secrets. "The quarantine protocol remains in effect," Orinth announced. "But Earth has requested a limited expansion of diplomatic contact, cultural exchange, scientific collaboration. Nothing military. Nothing threatening." A murmur rippled through the chamber. "The Novi delegation supports this request," the young ambassador said. "We have learned that isolation breeds ignorance. Ignorance breeds fear. Fear breeds violence. It is time to break the cycle." Other species spoke in turn. Some expressed caution. Some expressed hope. But when the vote was called, the result was clear. Contact would be expanded. Cautiously. Gradually. With respect. On Earth, the news was received quietly. There were no celebrations, no triumphant speeches. The governments of humanity had learned that peace was not an ending, it was a process. Ongoing. Fragile. Worth protecting. Ambassador Naira returned to Earth for the first formal cultural exchange. She stood at the window of a diplomatic facility overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. The sky was blue. The waves were steady. And the humans walking below paid her no attention at all. "You're staring," said a voice behind her. She turned. The human representative from their first meeting, a woman named Captain Elena Vasquez, now retired from military service, stood in the doorway. "I'm remembering," Naira said. "The battle. The fear. The uncertainty. Wondering if the galaxy had made a terrible mistake." Vasquez walked to the window and stood beside her. "And now?" Naira watched the waves. "Now I think we made the only choice that could have led here. Not to a perfect galaxy. Not to a peaceful one. But to one where a young species can grow without being crushed before it learns to stand." "That's all we ever wanted," Vasquez said quietly. "To stand." They stood together in silence, two beings from different worlds, watching the same ocean. Admiral Vex's final act before his retirement was to establish the Interspecies Historical Archive. Not a secret archive, not like the one the Council had kept. An open archive. Transparent. Available to all. He donated his personal logs from the Earth invasion, unredacted. He included his reflections on his failures. He added a warning that he intended every future military commander to read before they ever gave the order to attack. "Strength is not the ability to destroy," he wrote. "Strength is the wisdom to know what should not be destroyed. I learned this too late to save 53 worlds. May you learn it in time to save countless more." The archive became one of the most visited sites in Council space. Young officers came to study. Old commanders came to remember. And every species that joined the Council thereafter received a copy of Vex's warning as part of their orientation. On the final night before the expanded diplomatic contact began, Captain Zara visited Vex one last time. He was old now, his scales faded, his movements slow. But his eyes were clear. "Are you at peace?" she asked. "I am at peace with what I have become, not with what I was. That is enough." He looked out at the stars. "Do you think the humans will ever trust us? Truly trust us?" Zara considered the question. "I think trust is not something you achieve once. It is something you build every day, through every action. The humans understand that. They have been building it among themselves for thousands of years. Now they are teaching the rest of us." Vex smiled, a rare expression. "Then we still have much to learn." "Yes," Zara said. "But for the first time, we are willing." The first joint Human Council science vessel launched a year later. Its crew was mixed, human and alien, working side by side. Its mission, exploration, not conquest. Its destination, a nebula on the edge of known space, where no one had ever gone before. On the bridge, a human captain and a Vorthan science officer stood together, looking out at the stars. "Ready?" the human asked. The Vorthan nodded. "Ready." The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, and the stars became streaks of light outside the windows. Behind them, Earth grew smaller, a blue marble in the darkness. Ahead of them, the unknown waited. The quarantine was over. The lesson had been learned. And the galaxy, for all its flaws and fears, was finally, tentatively, beginning to heal. Not because humanity had conquered. Because humanity had refused to be conquered. And in that refusal, they had taught every species watching that some things were worth more than power. Home. Family. The freedom to stand on your own world and look up at the stars without fear. Earth remained. The quarantine held, not as a barrier to keep humans in, but as a boundary to protect them. And beyond that boundary, the galaxy slowly learned what the elder races had always known. You do not touch humans. Not because they are fragile. Because they are unbreakable. And because, when pushed, they push back. Every single time. 1 year after the first joint mission, a small ceremony was held on Council Station Prime. It was not broadcast to the galaxy. There were no speeches, no grand declarations. Just a gathering of beings who had once been enemies, now standing in the same room without weapons. Admiral Vex, now fully retired, sat in a chair near the observation window. His scales had faded to a soft bronze, and his movements were slow. But his eyes were clear, and when he looked at the humans across the room, he did not see the enemies who had destroyed his fleet. He saw neighbors. Ambassador Naira approached him, her ancient footsteps careful on the polished floor. "You came," she said. "I was invited." "Surprisingly, yes." Vex almost smiled. The galaxy is full of surprises now. They watched as human and Vorthan scientists examined a shared data display, working together, arguing good-naturedly, finding common ground. It was not the partnership of former enemies. It was the beginning of something new. 300 years ago, Naira said quietly, I watched a single damaged human ship defeat 200 Korvax vessels. I thought I had witnessed the limit of human capability. I was wrong. You underestimated their determination, Vex said. All of us did. Even after the Terran incident, the Council believed humanity was a threat to be contained, not a species to be understood. We created the quarantine to protect ourselves. We never considered that we might need protection from our own assumptions. Vex was silent for a moment. I was the same. I looked at their primitive technology and saw weakness. I looked at their divided governments and saw chaos. I never looked at their history, at what they had survived. What did you learn? Vex turned to face her. I learned that humans have been fighting for survival since before they had written language. Ice ages, famines, plagues, world wars, they endured all of it. And every time they rebuilt. Every time they came back stronger. Their entire existence is a testament to refusing to die. Naira nodded slowly. That is what the Korvax discovered. That is what you discovered. That is what the galaxy is still discovering. And yet, Vex said, gesturing toward the humans working peacefully with his people, they do not seek revenge. They do not demand tribute. They simply ask to be left alone. Not alone, Naira corrected. Respected. Across the room, Captain Elena Vasquez stood with her daughter. The girl was 19 now, a diplomatic corps cadet, sharp-tongued and brilliant, absolutely certain that she knew more about the galaxy than anyone else in the room. You're staring at the Vorthans again, Mom. I'm watching. There's a difference. Dad says you never stopped watching for threats. Elena smiled. Your father worries too much. He says you don't worry enough. Your father is probably right. But the galaxy doesn't need more worry. It needs more listening. Her daughter looked at the alien delegation, creatures she had grown up learning about in history class, not as monsters, but as neighbors. Do you think they've really changed? Elena considered the question. She thought about the battle, about the ships that had come to destroy her home, about the humans who had died to defend it. She thought about Admiral Vex, sitting in his chair, watching his people work alongside hers. I think change is slow, she said. I think it takes work every day. But I also think it's possible. Because if we can change, if humans can go from fighting each other over borders and beliefs to standing together against the stars, then anyone can change. Her daughter absorbed this. That's very philosophical, Mom. That's very human. The ceremony concluded without incident. Delegates returned to their ships. Scientists exchanged contact information. Soldiers who had once aimed weapons at each other shook hands. Vex remained in his chair, watching the humans depart. Naira sat beside him. One last question, she said. Ask. If you could go back, to the moment before you gave the order to attack, would you do anything differently? Vex was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was soft. I would ask to speak with them. Not to demand surrender. To listen. To understand. To learn that strength is not about taking, but about protecting. I would tell my younger self that the greatest victory is not conquering a world. It is earning its trust. Naira placed her hand on his. That is the lesson the galaxy is still learning. And it is why Earth remains behind the quarantine line, not to keep them in, but to let them grow in peace. They deserve that peace. They earned it. They watched the last human shuttle disappear into the darkness between stars. On Earth, the sun rose over Geneva. Elena Vasquez stood at the window of her apartment, looking out at the city. Her daughter was already at the academy. Her husband was making coffee. The news played softly in the background, reports of the ceremony, of the growing alliance, of the galaxy learning to trust. Are you coming to breakfast? Her husband called. In a minute. She looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue, beyond the clouds, the quarantine line held. Not as a wall. As a promise. No one would touch Earth again. Not because humanity had the most powerful fleet, though they did. Not because they had the most advanced weapons, though they had those too. Because the galaxy had finally learned that some things were not meant to be taken. Home. Family. The freedom to stand on your own world and look up at the stars without fear. Earth remained. The quarantine held. And beyond its boundary, the galaxy slowly healed. The stars shone down on a universe that was finally, tentatively, beginning to understand. Strength is not conquest. Strength is survival. Strength is refusing to give up. Strength is coming home. Humanity had taught them that. And the lesson would never be forgotten. Vex closed his eyes and listened to the hum of the station around him. Naira sat in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere, on a small blue planet, a mother drank her coffee and watched the sun rise, grateful for another day of peace. The quarantine was not a prison. It was a sanctuary. And beyond it, the galaxy was learning to live.